And Trevor, good morning. To start off, how was your Easter weekend?
Hey, Sam, great to join you. It was awesome. Kids actually had spring break last week, so we had a week after the Masters, which was a busy week to be back at home in Orlando, decompressing, taking it easy. The weather's still good here, not too hot yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a great week for us as a family just to chill out at the house and take it easy, play a little golf, hang out at the pool. So it was an awesome weekend. Thank you.
That's what I was actually about to ask. In your off time, do you play a little golf still?
I do because of my son mainly.
Mm-hmm.
He's 15 years old, about to turn 16, and loves the game. Competes at Florida junior tours and AJGAs and all sorts of junior golf all over this area, shall I say. He's gone up to Georgia, played a little bit there as well, but in Florida mainly at this point. And so, yeah, I go out there with him all the time. Fun for me to watch him improve.
Mm-hmm.
A little nerve-wracking is not the right word, but shall I just put it this way? We're getting to a point right now where he's about to start beating me regularly. Man. And so, he's working hard on his game. He's starting to get stronger and stronger and hit the ball further and learn all the nuances of the game. All the touch shots around the greens, how to work the ball. He can now get it out there enough to where he reaches the par fives in two. So him and I are having good matches right now. I'm gonna have to spend a little time cleaning my game up so that I can still compete with him.
Right. I feel like that's always a motivation for a dad. Like you gotta improve to where your son cannot beat you.
That's right.
For as long as possible.
You gotta drag it out as long as you can until you hand the mantle over.
When you were growing up, I've heard you say you decided you wanted to be a PGA Tour pro or professional golfer at the age of 5. Who was a golfer or athlete that you looked up to growing up?
Oh, there were so many. I've always been fascinated with greatness and success and achievement. And so when I was a youngster, I would read biographies and autobiographies, and I'd be trying to learn as much as I could, not just from athletes, but all sorts of people, entertainers, musicians that had achieved, that I was intrigued by their story. Because what you generally find is there's a common thread of sacrifice in that particular person's life in order for them to achieve what they wanted or achieve the goal or become successful in any walk of life. And so I think that's one of the things that I learned at a young age is if you're going to be successful and you want to become one of the best somehow, you're going to have to make some sacrifices along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, from a very young age, when I fell in love with the game, looking back now, quite interesting really how disciplined and dedicated I was to that goal. And literally every decision that I made from, before I was even a teenager, probably 7, 8, 9 years old, every decision I made was coming with the question. And the question was, is this going to make me better or worse at golf?
Wow.
And so unbelievable dedication, really. Looking back on it now, it actually jolts me a little bit. No forcing, no pressure from anybody in my family. It just 100% came from me. Loved the game, consumed really my life with it. And so, yeah, looking back at my high school years now, there were probably times when I could have had a little more fun and gone to more parties and hung out with my buddies a little more. But, I always had my eyes on the prize, so to speak. I wanted to go play a tournament here. I was traveling to the US to play junior tournaments. So I was missing a lot of the fun that they were having, but I was still having fun in my own right because I loved the game so much, but always had my eye on the goal of, winning a major, competing on the PGA Tour, that kind of stuff.
Being from South Africa, did you always look up to Gary Player or Ernie Els, or was there an American golfer that you kind of grew up kind of idolizing?
Yeah, there were many, but for sure, Gary and Ernie are probably the two biggest. I first met Gary when I was 5 years old, and he was coming to do an exhibition match at our home course, Somerset West Country Club, and was fascinated by him. If anybody who's ever met him, his energy, his enthusiasm, his presence, it grabs you when you're in his company. And so that was really cool for me to experience at a young age. And then as I started getting better and winning junior tournaments, competing well in South Africa, he really took an interest in my game and my career. So I was quite fortunate with that. He would always reach out, be in touch, give me advice, and I always had access to him. So he really has kind of been like a father figure to me. From a golfing standpoint, I can always lean on him for advice and a kick in the butt when I need it. And so he's been a huge part of my life. And then Ernie as well. Met Ernie when he was still an amateur golfer. He's really kind of like South Africa's Tiger Woods. Known about when he was a kid. He was a child prodigy in the game, was winning at an early age, was winning a lot of South African professional events when he turned pro out of high school after his military service. And so he was always very well known in our country. And fortunately for me too, he would also take me under his wing, show me the ropes, allow me to stay at his house here in Florida when I would come play junior tournaments. And so, yeah, I mean, those two guys absolutely, opened a lot of doors for me and allowed me to experience some pretty cool things. And then also any athlete that grows up looking for a way to get there, it always helps when you know somebody that's done it.
Sure.
Because in a way you get to know them. Maybe they're not put on a pedestal so much because as you get to know them, you see that they're human and they're normal. And so you can sit back at some point and go, okay, well, if they can do it, then maybe there is a chance that if I put the work in, I make the sacrifices, I dedicate myself, then I can achieve it too, because I've seen these people that I know achieve it. And I would say, with Gary and Ernie, that principle played into it as well for me.
And that is, you touched on just like Gary's energy. And I was fortunate enough to meet him a few times. And I still tell people about it all the time. Like his energy, his presence, just being around him makes you more motivated, makes you want to maybe strive for new goals or whatever it is. And I can only imagine you being, from his home country and wanting to almost achieve some of the goals he achieved. And I think he still does that with some of the young players coming from South Africa now. It seems like he still tries to take them under his wing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's still extremely plugged in with professional golf and gets to know all the youngsters as they're coming through. And, many of them, he's had a similar relationship than what I had with him. So he's been there for them. He's been encouraging. He's helped them whenever he could. And, he's the grandfather of golf in South Africa. There's no doubt about that. He's been very instrumental in the growth of the game down there, in the popularity of the game down there. And, for all these youngsters, I couldn't even come close to his record. But for all these youngsters coming through, I mean, he's the guy they're chasing. He's won 9 majors, won a bunch all over the world. Man, I'm wanting to say more than 100 professional wins around the world.
Worldwide, yeah.
And so he's the guy that they're chasing if they want to break some records.
Was there a time when you were transitioning to the States? Like, how did you make that move? Because you were relatively young, I believe, in your early 20s, and you picked up and moved kind of close to probably where you are now. Do you remember making that move and what your thought process was?
Well, we actually lived in the US in 1986 for a year. My dad had to do some business. And then we moved back to South Africa. And as I started becoming a more accomplished junior golfer, I was getting invites to play on the AJGA tour over here. So I would come over as 14, 15, 16-year-old, play junior golf in the summertime, get to know all the guys that I would eventually end up competing against pretty much throughout my career, as we were all playing the junior tour. And then I went, all that time I was still based in South Africa, finishing high school there, and decided to turn pro out of high school rather than go to college, which now when I look back on it, also is a pretty scary decision. But I had confidence in my ability at that time. Maybe, stupidity and ignorance bled into that as well. But, thankfully it worked out somewhat. But turned pro out of high school and decided the route to take was to go play on the European tour first, to try and hone my skill a little bit more. Back then, amateur golfers weren't coming out as ready as what they are now. I think the training and the technology dictated that back then. But so I moved over to London and was playing on the Challenge Tour there. We're talking 99 to end of 99, 2000. And ended up getting my card through the Challenge Tour for the European Tour. So played my first season on the main European Tour in 2001. And so my wife now, we actually met in high school, started dating in high school. She moved over with me to the UK at that point as well. So we were living there. And in about 2002, I broke into the top 50 in the world and started getting into more events here in the US. And, that was always where I wanted to end up. I wanted to be here in the US. I had such a great time in my junior years, spending the summers here, getting to know people here, loving the way of life and the country. And so as I started being able to compete over here more, we decided to get a base here, hoping to end up here. So now we're talking 2002 or so. And at that time we were sharing time between London and the US. And then by 2005, we had transitioned full-time here to the US. And as I was playing more and more over here on the PGA Tour, and we've been here, as you say, in the Central Florida area ever since.
Yeah. And it's really a perfect spot for somebody like you coming over to move to Florida and have all that opportunity. It's easy to travel and, it's easy to get around. Was there a time when you were moving to the US and trying to figure things out that, I was thinking about this. This is another great point. You mentioned you went straight from high school to pro. I feel like you were almost ahead of the game, because a lot of people, these younger athletes, that's what they do. They transition and they're so good right away. And that was kind of similar to how you came up.
Yeah, it's like I say, when I look back on it now, it's kind of intimidating, but I was so, or shall I say, and I'm thankful that it worked out, because if, let's say I got some kind of freak injury, or let's say my game didn't quite transition to the professional level, I would have been in a tough spot, having to try and figure out what my next move would be. But yeah, it was a risk I took and it paid off. And there were a couple others that did the same. A couple others that came over here to school for a short period. Adam Scott came to UNLV just for one season and then turned pro. Justin Rose also turned pro right out of high school. And so it's a slightly different system back then for international players to what it is for the Americans, where they have this well-oiled machine of going from junior golf, being recruited, going to a top-notch school, competing there, honing their skill more there whilst getting an education, and then being a bit more ready when they join the pro ranks. And so it was just a different system for people that grew up outside of the US.
Was your mindset and your practice routine still very like structured, and you're going to get better every day and you're going to put in as much work as possible through those years? Because I've heard you say, you only get in what you put it, or you only get out what you put in. Was that still your mindset in those early years growing up in the States and trying to make it? You're already in the top 50, which is an amazing accomplishment.
Oh yeah. I've always been, a little OCD, a little bit of perfectionism in there. And so that really drove me. It drove me hard. And it's an interesting one because I think in your formative years, it can be very helpful as you're still trying to reach your peak or still trying to hone your skill, because you wake up with that burning desire all the time. Once you eventually start to crest that hill, it can actually start hurting you a little bit, because now you're just driving your body. As you get older, you're driving your body into the ground a little quicker. And at that point, it probably should be a little bit more about maintenance and just trying to stay at the level you are. It sometimes can be unrealistic to say, well, I got to get better every day. Mm-hmm. You really could start beating yourself up if you're chasing your tail, so to speak, or chasing something that's not really possible. And but I was going hard at that time, man. 2-a-day workouts, because I'm a little guy, 5'9". At that point, probably 165, 170, and competing against big, strong athletes. Ernie 6'4", Tiger 6'2" and ripped, Adam Scott. These guys are big. BJ Singh. And so I had to just get kind of like same as Gary Player, like get every single little drop of everything that I could squeeze out of this body. I had to do it. So yeah, we had 2-a-day. I had a same trainer for 15 years, 2-a-day workouts, eating plans, getting stronger, practicing 6 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
It was hard work. But I wanted it bad. I really wanted it bad. Nothing was going to stop me. Nothing was going to get in my way. My wife now will tell you, she's a saint. She stuck with me through all of that. And at times didn't see me very much because I was so consumed with trying to get to a particular level. And it was a grind. But I gotta say, I loved every minute.
I'm sure. And I think y'all are about to hit 20 years of marriage. Is that right?
Yeah. That's
congratulations.
Right. Thank you. We got married in 2003. And so we're about to get there. Got 2 awesome kids. Been extremely fortunate.
That's an amazing milestone. I'm about to get married, so I might, get some marriage advice from you here, maybe near the end of the show. But I wanted to ask, do you remember what your daily schedule was or daily routine was back in the early 2000s with practice, with workouts, with training, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it would change depending on a couple things. First of all, the season. And if you're living here in Central Florida, there's a thunderstorm rolling through sometime between, let's just call it 2 and 5 in the summertime. And so I would be trying to maximize the outdoor practice time earlier in the day. And then, get that second workout in during a thunderstorm. So I wasn't wasting time. And, then maybe sneak out to practice again if that had cleared up early enough in the afternoon before the sun went down. But yeah, it would be 2-a-days. We would do cardio in the morning, cardio and stretching. And then a lot of practice that was sort of burning some energy, some calories, priming the body through stretching and ballistic movement. And then, so getting your body ready for a hard day's work of practice. And then in the afternoons would be the weightlifting, trying to get stronger.
Very cool.
And so that was the system, man. And eating and drinking protein shakes and trying to make sure that I could fuel my body as much as what I could. I would lose a lot of weight, very fast metabolism. And when I was practicing in those times and competing in those times, I would lose 2 to 3 pounds a week. So always trying to find a way to just up the calorie intake to make sure that I didn't get too skinny, because I was trying to build muscle.
Yeah.
And so needed to find a way to get all that managed. So it was constant eating and drinking trying to make sure that I could somewhat stay ahead of that.
Yep. And what do you think, obviously all that going on, do you think leading up to the 2008 Masters, did you know you were like in good form? Did you have a feeling that you're going to perform at that level you did going into the Masters?
Yes and no. And here are the reasons why. From about, like I said, 2002, now I'm top 50 in the world. I'm moving my way up. 2005, I have a good year. 2006, I have a great year.
I think you won in 2006 too.
Won on the PGA Tour for the first time. Rookie of the year out here. Was always kind of round and about the lead and playing well. Was also the year our first child, Jacob, was born. So we had a lot going on. It was a really great time for us. And 2007, didn't quite play as well, but still competed in a strong fashion. And then I won a big tournament down in South Africa at the end of 2007, the Nedbank Challenge. And right after that, I started having some pain in my abdomen, and I was struggling to breathe. And turned out I had a tumor on my diaphragm. So now we're late December, 18th of December to be exact. I had surgery to remove this tumor from my diaphragm. So
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they go in through 10th and 11th rib, extract this thing. Thankfully, it's benign, but still left with a 6-inch scar on my back, and all the recovery, trying to make sure that I get the lungs and diaphragm firing again and working properly. So that was a lot of rehab. And so that set back my start to the 2008 season. And once I did come back to the US and get things going, I was still really apprehensive about making big ballistic swings, hitting out of thick rough, stuff like that. And so going into the 08 Masters, which is now really only 4 months removed from the surgery.
Yeah, because that's early on in the year. It's the first game of the year. It's
that's
in
right.
April.
That's right. Expectations were low. And I hadn't really played that well to start off the season. But got there, starting to feel a bit better about my long game. Knew the course well. I finished in the top 5 there in 2005. So I'd had a little bit of success at Augusta National before. I knew what it took to kind of weave your way around that particular course. And, just quietly went about my business. And from the first 9 holes, really went out and 2 under on the first 9, shot 68 the first day. It took the lead, and, things just progressed from there. Confidence grew. And so going back to the original question, yes, because I'd competed well for a few years and was, one of the top, let's call it 20, 25 best players in the world. But no, because of the surgery, the slow start to the season, and also no, because, back in those days, Tiger Woods was pretty much mopping the floor with all of us all the time. So, especially when you pitch up at Augusta National, I mean, he was the odds-on favorite by a mile.
Yeah, and I saw he did finish second that year. I think another thing that was amazing that I looked up yesterday was you led or tied for the lead after all 4 rounds.
Yeah, that's something now that that I look back on with some pride. Really, it's a lot to be under that spotlight for the whole week, particularly as you're chasing your first major win. And you got Tiger there and a bunch of other great players that are mega capable of playing really well. And so, yeah, the fact that I hung in there and stuck in there and played well and got it done on Sunday after leading for the whole week. Yeah, it's something that I absolutely look back on now with a little smile and some pride, for sure.
That's something a lot of people cannot say, even Masters champs. Do you remember what your Saturday night was like, your sleep, what you were doing to maybe calm yourself down or continue to stay in that mindset going into the final round?
Yeah, it was pretty relaxed. Saturday, we had a 2-hour delay. We had a storm roll through. And so we finished right at sunset played the last hole pretty much in the dark. And once I'd finished the media and done all of those kinds of things, left the club, and it was around 9 p.m. And so go through your messages. Gary Player was one of the first messages that I had, giving me a pep talk and telling me that I had what it takes to get it done on the Sunday. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Els was another person who left a message for me. So you go through those kinds of things, but you don't let it pull you too much from your bubble. That week in our house, our rental house, we had a rule: no newspapers, no golf on TV.
Cool.
And so just to try and minimize the distractions, just try and focus on ourselves, what we were doing, how I was preparing. And so got home. Our nanny had left the club with our son, Jacob, who was only a year and a half at the time, earlier in the day, to get him situated, get him dinner, and put him to sleep. And so he was fast asleep by the time we got home. And we had some dinner. Spaghetti bolognese, if I remember correctly, is what
Nice.
she had cooked for us. It's what Jake had eaten and what we ended up having that night. And then just, showered up and relaxed and started thinking about what my goals were for the next day. And I distinctly remember thinking to myself, this could be it. This could be your best shot. This could be your only shot. What can you do to give yourself the best opportunity to win tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought the best thing I could do is build and have as much self-confidence as possible, and trust myself and trust my swing, trust my game, in a nutshell. Trust my game. Trust all the work that I'd put in. Trust the experience that I'd gained over the years from competing as a junior. Trust my instincts, and go out there and get into my own little world, forget about what everybody else is doing, and play my game, and believe that if I perform to my potential, I can win this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the mindset that I went to sleep with, and I slept well. Now we're kind of close to midnight, but I slept well. I slept till 9 a.m. the next morning. Still a long way till 3 the next day when you tee off. But had a good rest, and the next morning you're on edge. You're on edge for sure. You're a little anxious, nervous, excited, uncomfortable. It's
What
a
do you
big
do
stage.
to pass the time?
Anything and nothing. You just, well, what I mean by that is you're playing with Jake, you are talking to family members, you're doing all that kind of stuff, but your mind is still on the golf.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by nothing. So your body's doing some stuff, but your mind is still like mega focused on the day and how you're going to get your mind and your body to match up for a 4 to 5 hour period to give yourself the best shot at competing at the highest level. And so you're just really biding the time, and you're trying not to waste too much energy. You're trying not to get distracted. You're trying not to get to the course too soon, because as soon as you get there, there's going to be people trying to pull you in different directions. And you really just trying to get into some type of autopilot zone when you get to the course, run through your regular routine,
Mm-hmm.
and then get going, when you get to the first tee.
You mentioned trying to figure out your goals for that final round. Are we talking, I want to shoot 36 on the front 9? Or are you talking, I want to hit the fairway on 1? Like, how little or big were the goals for that day, or what was your focus? Like, hey, I want to be left side of the bunker on 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer for me is that those goals change throughout the day. Now, on Saturday night and starting Sunday, the goal was, how am I going to have as much self-belief as possible? How am I going to have as much trust in myself as possible? That was the goal. So that's the goal that's attached to winning. So winning is what we all want. What's going to give us the best chance to win? Mindset wise, in the time leading up to the first tee, it was trust yourself, trust your game. You've got what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Get going during the round and the goals start to change. Or even you start adding goals to the original trust goal. So how can you get settled down in the first few holes? I made my first birdie on the 5th hole. That was huge for me to get back to even for the day. The conditions were brutally difficult.
Brutal.
Very windy. And so
5th hole is hard too.
Yeah, so hard. And I hit an amazing 8-iron in there to about 4 feet and made the putt. And that gave me a lot of confidence. And I wasn't paying any attention to the leaderboards.
I heard you didn't even look at it.
Yeah, but I could feel the energy. I could feel that I was leading. You can feel the way the patrons are reacting. So now you start to get to the end of the tournament. For instance, on 17T, I know that I'm leading. I can feel it. So now the goal changes to, how can I par these last 2 holes? So now everything that's come before for the previous 70 holes, it does not matter anymore. How can I par the last 2 holes? And I remember parring the 17th hole. I actually hit it in the front bunker and got it up and down.
Wow.
Now you walk over the back of 17T and it's a downhill. You make a right to get to the teeing ground that's all the way in that back corner there. And you're walking through like a tunnel of people, and people are shouting at you and reaching out and patting you on the back, saying well done. So I can hear some of that, and I can feel the energy that I'm leading. And the first thing that went through my mind was, okay, if you're leading, you have to make a par or a bogey here to at least be in a playoff.
Yeah.
Make a par, you win. Make a bogey, at least you're in a playoff. You can live to fight another hole. So how can you do that? How am I going to make a par? This is such a difficult hole. In this year's tournament, it actually played as the second hardest hole.
18
in 2022. Tee shot is the hardest tee shot on the golf course. How can I make a par or bogey? I have to get this ball in play off the tee. So everything went away, and all I focused on was that tee shot. Like there was nothing else in my mind. It was just, how can I move this ball from the tee into the fairway? It consumed me. And I hit this tee shot. Actually, there's a pretty cool camera angle when you watch back. I hit this tee shot, and they had a camera from the fairway down on my swing and on my face. And you can see in my follow through, as I look up and see the ball taking off down the fairway, like I let out this huge sigh of relief. Like,
wow.
Like, okay, I did what I wanted. Because at that point I knew a par or bogey I got it.
Yep.
And so that's what I mean by the goals. You start out with like an overall overarching goal. But as the day progresses and you start to feel a little different about things, new goals can enter the fray. Like I said, when I got to 17, okay, I want to par the last 2. That goal got me through 17. Then when I got to 18T, the goal was, okay, how do I get it in the fairway? So now that goal got me through that part. And then after I'd hit my second shot onto the green, gave the club back to my caddy and said to him, how are we doing? And he was like, oh, you're 3 shots up, it's all over. And so that was really the first time all week that I allowed myself to snap out of this bubble and really pay attention to everything that was going on around me, which I also appreciate now looking back, because
you got to
I'd
enjoy
watched
the
so
moment.
I watched so many guys make that walk up the 18th fairway, and all of a sudden I'm that guy. And so for a kid that grows up down in the corner of South Africa that dedicated his life to this, it was a
Watching the
pretty
Masters,
surreal moment. Yeah, pretty surreal moment. And so that was something cool for sure.
And I can thank for, talking about your youth and your early years on tour and your routine and your grind. And very similar to what Scotty said this year, he was, overwhelmed with emotions leading into that final round. But once he got to the course and kind of got into that routine of golf, that's when he kind of settled down, which kind of is an amazing thing. Just like you mentioned, like once you got to the course, got into your routine and thought like, I'm just going to match up my swing and my mentality today for the final round. And then the rest kind of takes it from there. Like you go to 1, you have a micro goal, 2 micro goal, you get to 18, you have this micro goal of hitting the fairway. What did you hit? 3-wood? Did you hit driver? What was your club of choice on 18?
Yeah, I hit driver. It's the biggest club head in the bag, man. It's got more the sweet spot's the biggest, more chance of getting it out there. So driver, when in doubt, was always driver for me, unless there was some type of strategy from a bunker standpoint, or a water hazard type of situation, penalty area, where the best play was to lay back.
Yeah.
It's always going to be driver for me. More chance to hit the middle. But just this, as I was thinking about what you were talking about there, I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people in life. When you are setting out to achieve something, or even if you have a big day in front of you that can be overwhelming, you got a lot of things you got to get to, a lot of things you want to do, kind of worried if you got what it takes to get it done. You've got to have a 1 foot in front of the other mentality. Come up with a plan, come up with a strategy. Okay, this is going to put me in the best spot possible to do what I need to do today. And then from there, you almost got to forget a little bit about how intimidating everything is, and just 1 foot in front of the other, man, and just keep moving. And eventually you get there, and you look back at the end of the day and you're like, man, I can't believe I got that done. I didn't think it was possible. And there you did it. So I think that's a good lesson for all of us in any walk of life, really.
That's such a great point. Anything you're doing, if you look at it as some huge obstacle, it's going to be very difficult to get yourself there. But if you just look at it as these, like you said, 1 foot in front of the other, and you continue to progress and move forward, eventually you're going to end the day and be like, man, I'm the Masters champion.
There you go.
I had an interesting question that you were talking about being on the 18th tee and you just wanted to hit the fairway. For an amateur golfer, for me, I know a little bit about Augusta 18, like you kind of want to move the ball left to right. Is there, in your mind, as a pro golfer, somebody that's the top of their game, maybe in their entire career, are you thinking about bringing your club more outside? Are you thinking about having the club face a little open? Are you just trying to hit it square? Like, what, as a pro golfer, are you thinking about to achieve that little goal to hit the fairway?
Well, I'd love to tell you that there's no swing thoughts, but man, I got to say that I never found that holy grail of being able to play with no swing thoughts. So there's always something that I'm taking to the course that I'm trying to feel in my swing. And that week I had a really distinct feel of my lead arm, which is my left arm, feeling really close to my chest on the downswing. And from there, I could just keep rotating, and the club head was slinging down the target line, and I was crushing the ball that week. And so, I'm going to that 18th tee with that in mind, and I'm trying to stick to my routine. I had a very precise routine of getting into the ball, looks at the target, and getting comfortable. And then once I pull the trigger, I'm trying to feel that lead arm close to my chest on the way down. And so that's what I'm going with. And, so that's kind of rumbling around in my mind, along with the fact, like, just get this ball in the fairway. In a sense, there's a certain aspect of like willing it there into that spot.
Yep.
It's a very weird place that athletes get into in times like that. It's very hard to describe.
How small did you aim, or do you aim? Do you see a patron in the distance? Do you see the very right side of a bunker? Or, how small are you aiming when you do that?
Yeah, I would aim pretty small, and have a very distinct target. And so for me on that particular shot, there's two bunkers down that left-hand side at the corner of the dog leg, and the tees have been pulled back. So you're looking at, 290-ish uphill to get to the first one. So to get to the second one, you're looking at 310 plus uphill. So I knew I couldn't reach the second one. So I'm aiming at the right edge of the bunkers. And the right edge of those bunkers is pretty much the middle of the fairway. So I'm zoning in on that. And then as I'm going through my routine, getting into the ball, I would have two looks. So as I'm getting in, I'm looking, and I'm looking right at that corner of the bunker. Nothing else is in my vision. It's tunnel vision. And then I would say, get into it. I'd look back and I'd be talking to myself, get into it, get comfortable. Once I was comfortable, I would say one look, and I look back up right at the corner of the bunker. Nothing else. Look back, go.
Wow.
So that was it.
Do you have any swing thoughts about tempo? Was that ever something you paid attention to? Like,
No.
One big second back, one big second through?
No. I've always had a really fast swing. And so I find when I think of rhythm and tempo, I tend to slow down. And I've just never been able to manage the sequence as well when my swing feels slower. I've just always been a guy that like fast twitch, like a quick movement.
Yep. And I mean, obviously you go on to win the Masters, which is freaking incredible. Was there those same years, didn't you play on the President's Cup team? 2009?
05, 07, yeah.
07, that's right.
Yeah.
Who were the captains the 2 years you played on the President's Cup team?
It was Gary, both times, which was a thrill for me because, like I said to you earlier, he was one of my mentors, like a father figure to me. And so to be able to play for him was a thrill. Jack Nicklaus was the captain on the American team both times. And it was a lot of fun, particularly the first one. I was just 24 or 25 years old. So a huge opportunity and thrill for me to be able to be on those teams with guys like Ernie and Mike Weir and VJ.
Yeah.
Stuart Appleby, rolling back the clock a little bit here. Jeff Ogilvy, Adam Scott. Him and I were the two youngsters coming through. And so awesome experience for me to be able to hang out in that kind of company, spend a lot of time in a week with those type of players, see the routines and habits that they have, how they prepare for a big event, how they are off the course. And so, yeah, those were things that were extremely important to me, I think, leading up to that 2008 win at Augusta.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, fast forward till I think when did you get selected as the 2021 President's Cup captain?
It was really right after the 2019 Cup down in Australia.
Yep.
And the team
Performed really
decided.
well, by the way. Your
Yeah, we
international
did.
team.
We did. We fell just short. Ernie was the captain. I was one of his assistants, which was awesome. Great week down in Australia. Royal Melbourne is one of the best golf courses on the planet. Just a great place for professional golf, to see the best in the world get challenged by this old masterpiece. And so awesome week down there. We had the lead going to the Sunday singles, just fell short, which was extremely disappointing. And we were a little hurt on that Sunday night, but immediately started looking forward to what was supposed to be the 2021 President's Cup. And organically, the team just decided that they thought I should be the next captain. That was a humbling moment for me, great moment for me. And so we announced it shortly after that, a few months after, and then pandemic hit, so everything got moved back a year. So it's been a longer process for my wife and I, trying to lead the team to the next President's Cup. So we're getting close now. We're inside of 5 months. Looking forward to Charlotte at the end of September. We've worked hard. We've grown on the foundation that Ernie Els put in place with our team shield and our logo. First time we've ever had that. And so really, I've been trying to focus on building this franchise, getting it out there, allowing people to understand our team, the international team, what we stand for, what we play for, how excited we are at the opportunity to be able to compete against the Americans. So it's been a lot of fun, but looking forward to it arriving now so we can get out there and play.
I didn't know what to think about the selection of the captain, and to hear it was the players and all y'all together after the 2019 President's Cup that it has to be, like you said, it's like almost super humbling for them to pick you as the captain. I thought it might have more like politics in it, or somebody selecting the captain, but it makes it so much better that it was the team that selected you to be the captain, almost like teams in general, like the football team, gets their captain, or a soccer team picks their captain. It's a lot of time the team that picks their captain, and for them to pick you, I can only imagine your feeling when you realize you're going to be the captain.
Yeah, really humbling. Like I said, to have your peers and guys you respect make that decision and choice. Must say, I give a lot of credit to Ernie Els as well for putting us in a position to be able to make that decision. What I mean by that is, in the earlier iterations of the President's Cup, when it started in the mid 90s, I think there was some politics to it. The tour, PGA Tour, was basically running both teams, which is an interesting dynamic because there's competition, but one entity is making all the decisions for both teams. And it was Ernie who eventually stood up and said to the tour, look, if you want us to be all in on this as international players, and you really want this event and this cup to grow in stature, then you need to allow our team to start to make our own decisions. And initially, I think the tour was a little bit caught off guard by that, but very quickly they understood that he was right, and that it was the correct thing to do for them to allow us a bit more leeway with how we want to run our team and the way we want to do things. And it was at that point that he designed this shield and came up with team colors. And it was really the first time, and it's kind of crazy now when you think of it, that the event started, I wanted to say 93 or 94. And 2019 was the first time we actually had our own flag, our own logo, our own team colors. And, we always just used to play in whatever the tour decided our colors were. We used to have this flag that was like baby blue with a bunch of gold stars all over it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Meant nothing to us. And all of a sudden in 2019, now we had something that was ours, that we could get behind, that we could love and look up to. and come together as players from 7, 8 different parts of the world, different countries and territories. That, you know, now all of a sudden we were together. And so that's why I say I give Ernie a lot of credit for putting his neck on the line, standing up for that, making sure that that got done. And then that put us in a position after that 2019 Cup to decide our own captain for this President's Cup and all future President's Cups. So we're starting to get a nice structure now, a nice rhythm in place of how we like to do things. And you know, we've planned out who our next captains will be for the next decade.
Nice. I have the website up. You have 154 days.
That's it.
Till it kicks off.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby. And it's in Quail Hollow. It's about an hour and a half from where I am. I know me and Bo are going to try and make it up there for at least a couple of the days. And so you get, I think it's still this way, there's 8 golfers that qualify. And I mean, looking at your list now, you have Hideki, Cam Smith, Joaquin Neiman, Louis, Abraham Answer, who I love and kind of fell in love with him in the 2019 President's Cup. And then you get 4 captain's picks. What are you looking for in the captain's picks? Is it current form? Is it kind of like the team mindset? Is that something that I'm sure you've thought a lot about, because you get to pick 4 more golfers to play on the team?
Yeah, it's a combination of all of those things. First off, you want a player that's in good form leading up to the event. These choices will be made a month before, so pretty close. You definitely want somebody that's personality will be cohesive with the other 8 that have automatically qualified. So you're looking at team chemistry as well. How are things going to be in the team room? What does that player bring? And then you're also looking at how every player's game matches up to Quail Hollow and that golf course, and what that golf course asks of a player. And then you are also looking into how these 4 selections games can meld in with the 8 automatic qualifiers. So do we have a guy? So look, you don't have to be a genius to figure out, I'm not giving away anything here, to figure out that guys like Hideki and Cam Smith are going to be a massive part of our team. So does it serve me well to bring someone in that pairs up well with the 2 of them, whether it be an alternate shot or best ball? Of course it does. Those are my 2 studs. Those are my stars. I need to make sure that they are happy, that they're comfortable, that they're confident in who they're playing with. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be able to get the best out of them. So it's a combination of all of those things that you're trying to massage together to get the best 12 out there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge task. I decided to stick with what Ernie had in 8 and 4. Could have changed it. The Americans have changed it. They went to 6 and 6. That's a lot of pressure on the captain, but they did it very successfully at the Ryder Cup. So they clearly have a system and strategy in place that's working well for them. But, you know, I kept it at the 8 and 4, but I completely overhauled our qualification criteria. It used to just go straight off of world ranking, which I think there's a few outliers there that I was a bit apprehensive about. So I came up with a system that would, in my opinion, more accurately acknowledge strength of field for each event. And then we would give points accordingly to the strength of field. So when you look at tournaments like the Masters or the Players or the Genesis at Riviera, when the majority of the best players are competing, those are the events that give the most points, because I want a guy that is played against Dustin Johnson, has played against Justin Thomas, that has been paired with him, go head to head with him. I want players that are comfortable in that role, in that atmosphere. So I overhauled the selection criteria. First time it's ever been done. So was a little nervous about that at the start. But, as you read off our rankings right now, it appears that it's working.
Yeah. And you have, or the internationals team has an amazing amount of young players, promising, already super accomplished young players. But then you have the guys like Louis Oosthuizen and Adam Scott and these other guys that are, anchors that have been on the team for years. And I'm sure they are kind of tired of losing and they are ready to freaking win.
Yeah, I think we're all tired of losing for sure. So this is going to be Adam Scott. If he gets onto the team, which, he's starting to play some really good golf. He's kind of hungry. When I've been hanging around him, speaking to him lately, he really has rededicated himself at the age of 41, really hungry to get out there and win some more, which I'm excited about. This is going to be his 10th President's Cup if he gets on the team, and tied one time in 2003, and every other time he's lost.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about hunger, you talk about guys that are tired of losing, you absolutely throw him in that category.
Sure. And, you mentioned the Ryder Cup. I'd see you almost have, I would say you have an amazing group of players here that can probably compete in my eye against the American team better than even maybe the Europeans. And I'm so excited for Quail Hollow. And you mentioned Quail Hollow and the course. What does the course demand of a player at Quail Hollow?
It's a good test. It's a great test. Look, we're all familiar with it because we've been playing a PGA Tour event there for almost 2 decades. So I don't think there's a distinctive home course advantage, so to speak, because all the players are so used to competing there. But it's a course where you need to have some length so that you can take advantage of the par fives. There's also a couple drivable par fours on the course. So length does help. But on approach, you need to be accurate. You need to be very accurate, have good distance control. There's a lot of greens there that have little plateaus and ridges that you need to be able to work. So you got to have good distance control to be able to use that to your advantage. Otherwise, you're going to be left with long putts over slopes and mounds. So making birdies then becomes difficult. I think they're going to set the course up in a way that players can be aggressive. I don't anticipate very much rough at all. And hopefully the course will be very firm and fast. I think that's what the players really like. And it's always fun on TV when you see that ball rolling. So it's a really great test. Fans are going to be packed in. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to play aggressive. There's a bunch of water around the golf course from holes 7 through the way we're going to play it, because they're going to reroute it a little bit. The Green Mile is going to come earlier in the round.
Really?
So holes the way we're going to play it from 7 through that Green Mile, which is going to be 15. There's a lot of water in play.
18 is going to be 15?
18 is going to be 15.
Very cool.
So what we're used to seeing is, we can picture the course the way we're used to seeing it on tour. The way it's going to be for the President's Cup is you're going to play the first 8 holes as we're used to it. But then the 9th hole will be the normal 12th hole.
Got it.
So you're going to walk behind or straight off the back of the 8th, round the corner to the 12th hole, the normal 12th. That's going to be the 9th. And then you'll go around the corner. So the Green Mile is going to be 13, 14, 15. And then the 16th hole will be the 10th hole as we know it, par 5. So 10, 11 will be 16, 17, and then the 9th will be 18.
You mentioned little to no rough. Is that because you think that they'll do that to favor the American long hitters? Is that what?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what they have in mind. That's the formula that they have. They believe that they are longer drivers of the ball and maybe not quite as accurate. And so they're wanting to set things up in a way that gives their length their best advantage. So if they do miss some fairways, they'll still be able to play a recovery shot. I have no problem with that. I think the golf course is going to play better that way. Much like Augusta National, when there's less rough, the ball has more opportunity now to roll into the trees. And I think that just brings a whole new dynamic that I kind of enjoy as a fan of the game. And being match play, I want there to be a lot of birdies out there, a lot of fan interaction, aggressive play. I think that really bodes well for an awesome environment and atmosphere for fans that are on site and fans watching at home. So,
and it's a great viewing course too.
Oh yeah, they've done an amazing job with the build out, the plans that they've got. It's going to be. I don't want to overreact here. I think it's going to be the biggest golfing event that we've seen in the United States. And what I mean by that is fans in attendance, build out. It's gonna be massive.
I can't wait.
Be pandemonium.
As a fan, really I can't wait.
It'd be awesome, particularly for the American team playing at home. They're gonna have so many fans behind them, and for us, that's a cool challenge as well.
Very true, but I mean, as an American, and I of course love our team, but there's so many guys on your team that are probably qualified to your team that I really love too, and especially, I mean, you talk about even like Joaquin Niemann, right? Watching him in the Masters this past week, or watching him this past weekend. Have you talked to Louis? I know he withdrew with an injury.
I have, yes, I have, and I'm gonna answer a little bit of your previous question as well. With the youth that we have, it has been exciting coming, watching them come through. In Australia, we had 7 rookies, and that just goes to show we were actually the youngest team ever in the history of the President's Cup. And so those youngsters have now got a few more years of experience under their belt. Neiman is one of them that you mentioned that really has stepped up to the plate. Cameron Smith's another. Louis, have spoken to him, tweaked his neck actually on the Thursday morning of the Masters, and was really uncomfortable that whole first day. Couldn't quite get the spasms to calm down, and eventually withdrew. So he's on a like a rest and recovery protocol, trying to get things to calm down. He is scheduled to play this week at the Zurich Classic with Charles Schwartzel. So hoping that he's well enough to do that, and then kick his prep up, getting ready for the PGA Championship.
Yeah, and Schwartzel he's another guy that had a great Masters that is a little further down maybe on the rankings list, but as a captain, who knows, he might be able to make it.
Yeah, he's absolutely one of those guys that, when he steps on the tee and you're playing against him, you know that he's got what it takes to get it done at the highest level.
He's a Masters champ.
There's something to that as well from a mental standpoint. He has a tremendous amount of talent. He's had a couple off years. He's had some injuries to deal with, but great to see him playing well at Augusta. Also put some good rounds together at Hilton Head. So yeah, who knows? It's a lot of times for athletes at that level, it's like riding a bike. Once they can get up and going again, that confidence comes back pretty quickly. So hopefully that's the case for Charles.
Yeah. Well, Trevor, you've been very gracious with your time, and thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to come up to Quail Hollow late September and maybe cheer for y'all a little bit, but also cheer on the American team.
Sure.
And, I have 2 listener questions, and then we'll get you out of here.
Sure.
First one, favorite champions dinner?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind now. I have to go with what we just experienced with Hideki a week or so ago. He did such an amazing job. The food was tremendous, starting with the sushi before, the miso black cod, the Wagyu beef. It was incredible. It's probably the best meal I've ever had in my life. add that to the fact that we're at the champions dinner. He got up and gave an amazing speech in English. First time he had ever given a speech in English. So he was extremely nervous and anxious about it, but he crushed it. He did a brilliant job. He got a standing ovation, which is the first time I've ever seen that happen in the 14 times I've gone to the champions dinner.
Wow.
That the champion get a standing ovation for his speech. And so that was really cool. Adam Scott was in first place for his champions dinner. He did like a surf and turf out of Australia with some amazing 95 Penfolds Grange wine.
Wow.
So he held the top spot until Hideki knocked him into second last week.
Amazing. I do love Hideki too, man. Goodness, he's one hell of a talent. All right, last question. Favorite course?
You know, I go with Augusta National and the old course at St. Andrews.
Can't go wrong.
I've always enjoyed courses where all levels of golfer can be functional. And I feel like that can happen at those two courses. You know, there's not that much water around. There's not much out of bounds. You can just move the ball forward. You know, if you think of Augusta National, you could top it off the first tee and it's going to run 150 yards down the hill. And then you're going to be able to, you know, scuffle it up the hill and get to the green. And then when you get to the greens, and this is much the same as the old course, when you get to the greens is when the skill level starts to get separated. You know, have you got all these little cool spinning chip shots or bump and runs into the bank? Or do you have the imagination to use the ridges and the humps and bumps? I've always enjoyed golf courses like that. Rather than when I roll up to a golf course and you walk to the first tee and there's like a 200-yard carry over a marsh or over some water. And it's just like, man, you know, 90% of the golfers in the world don't have this in them. Why are we designing courses like this? So I always have had an affinity with those old school courses that you can just get around, you know?
And I agree with you too. I mean, I have my golfing group where anywhere from 1 to 2 handicappers to 20, 25 handicappers. And having courses we can all play, obviously benefit us all. But Trevor, again, thank you, man. This has been amazing. I cannot wait to see your team end of September at Quail Hollow. And thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Thoroughly enjoyed it.